For 4 straight years, this whole arena went up above a train station that never once closed. Workers laid steel beams over live tracks while commuters walked underneath, and nobody down there ever felt a delay. The complex rose past 20 stories in places, all of it threaded through a working transit hub without forcing a single scheduled train to reroute. Up top sits a roof held together by nothing but cable and tension. No columns, no internal supports, hanging exactly the way it did back in 1968. Underneath is a train station New York tore down and has spent almost 60 years regretting. And somehow, out of all that, came Madison Square Garden, the building people still call the most famous room in sports. I went through the structural engineering firm's own project archive, newspaper coverage from the demolition years, and the steel trade press that covered the roof erection, and used advanced AI to reconstruct how this actually got built. 20,000 seats, a roof hanging from cable instead of columns, a live railroad running the entire time, underneath all of it. The third Madison Square Garden opened in 1925 at 8th Avenue and 50th Street, built by boxing promoter Tex Rickard in just 249 days. It was modest by later standards, 200 feet wide and 375 feet long, holding a maximum crowd of 18,496 for its biggest draw, Boxing Night. That building saw plenty of history all the same. Franklin Roosevelt delivered a campaign speech from its floor in 1936. In 1962, the whole country watched John F. Kennedy's birthday tribute unfold there, the one where Marilyn Monroe famously sang to him. None of that changed the basic math working against the building by the late 1950s. Steel columns ran straight through the seating bowl, blocking sightlines from a third of the arena at any given event. The building itself was pushing 35 years old, and New York's sports and entertainment business had outgrown it. Even simple things like concessions and parking had become afterthoughts squeezed into a building designed decades before either one mattered, as much as it did by 1959. In 1959, a company called Graham Page bought a controlling stake in the garden. Graham Page had spent 3 decades building cars before its owners pivoted hard into real estate, and the garden quickly became their biggest bet yet. Its new president, Irving Mitchell Felt, wanted something the old building could never become: unobstructed sightlines, a bigger and more flexible seating bowl, and a facility that could host a circus, a title fight, and a political convention in the same month without reconfiguring anything. The old garden couldn't be that building without demolishing itself and starting over on the same cramped city block. Felt didn't need to force that option. A few blocks south, an entire railroad was sitting on land it barely used above ground, and its owners badly needed the cash a sale could bring in. In November 1960, Felt quietly purchased the air rights above Pennsylvania Station from the Pennsylvania Railroad. The deal gave him the legal right to build directly on top of an active train terminal, something almost nobody had attempted at that scale before. The railroad itself was hemorrhaging money by then, undercut by cars and airplanes, and its executives saw more value in air rights than in a grand waiting room commuters increasingly skipped. He structured the arrangement carefully. The new company, Madison Square Garden Inc., was 75% owned by Graham Page and 25% owned by the railroad itself, tying the railroad's own future directly to the arena that would replace its station. At first, Felt kept the plan close to the chest. His own brother James, who happened to chair the city's planning commission at the time, resigned rather than be anywhere near the decision once it became public. By July 1961, Felt announced it outright. He would tear down the above-ground structure of Pennsylvania Station, the soaring hall McKim, Mead and White had modeled on the Roman baths of Caracalla back in 1910, and build a new Madison Square Garden directly on the site. Felt later admitted exactly what he was trading away, and didn't pretend otherwise. He argued the gain from the new arena would outweigh whatever got lost architecturally, and predicted that in 50 years, a new generation of architects would probably want his own building gone too. He wasn't shy about the money either, insisting the whole project would be funded privately, without a cent of city or state money going into construction. He wasn't entirely wrong about that second part. He just badly underestimated how loud the fight over the first building would get. Getting legal permission turned out to be the easy part. What came next turned into one of the loudest architectural fights in the city's history. Demolition began October 28, 1963. It took 3 years, one column and one archway at a time, to erase a building that had welcomed presidents and immigrants alike for over half a century. Workers swung sledgehammers through pink granite columns and hauled marble and stone reliefs out to the New Jersey meadowlands, where truckloads of eagles and carved friezes ended up dumped into the swamp, instead of saved anywhere at all. Preservationists picketed outside the demolition fence. Architects wrote furious letters to the newspapers. Yale's Vincent Scully summed up the whole trade in one line people still repeat: "One entered the city like a god and scuttles in now like a rat." None of it stopped the wrecking crews. But it did something else entirely. Mayor Robert Wagner formed a committee to catalog the city's historically significant buildings before New York lost another one without a fight. That committee became the New York City Landmarks Preservation Commission in 1965. Honestly, this might be my favorite twist in the whole story. The commission created out of watching Penn Station disappear went on to save Grand Central Terminal from almost the exact same fate a little over a decade later, this time winning the argument outright. Within a few years, the commission had designated hundreds of individual landmarks and entire historic districts across the 5 boroughs, a scale of protection that simply hadn't existed in New York before. By 1966, the last of the station's ground-level structure was gone. What remained standing below street-level platforms, tracks, and a scaled-down concourse would somehow have to carry an entire arena on top of it. The new building couldn't use a conventional roof. A typical arena roof rests on rows of interior columns or a thick perimeter wall, and neither option existed here. Columns would have landed directly on live train tracks below. Severid Associates, the structural engineering firm brought onto the project, designed something closer to a bicycle wheel turned upside down than a building. Think of a bicycle wheel's hub pulling the rim taut instead of the rim holding the hub up, and you've got the basic idea. 48 steel cables radiate outward from a central tension ring, stretching to an outer compression ring 404 feet across, the largest cable-suspended roof New York City had ever seen. The compression ring is built from 48 welded steel box sections, each 26 feet long, made from weathering steel that shrugs off corrosion instead of needing regular paint. The tension ring at the center weighs 100 tons on its own, forged in 4 separate pieces and welded together 41 feet across. The concept itself wasn't brand new. Engineer Lev Zetlin had already used a similar cable roof at smaller arenas earlier that decade. Severid's team simply scaled the same physics up to a size nobody had attempted before. Gravity does the rest of the work. The whole roof hangs from that ring instead of pushing down on anything below, which meant the arena floor underneath could stay completely open, with no columns anywhere in the sightlines. It also meant sound, and lighting rigs could hang directly from the same structure holding the roof up, instead of needing separate framework bolted in somewhere else. On paper, it looked almost elegant. Building at 150 feet above an active rail yard turned out to be an entirely different problem. Groundbreaking came on October 29, 1964, and the general contractor Robert E. McKee, out of El Paso, Texas, inherited a job site unlike almost anything else in the city. Trains kept running underneath every single day of construction, on a schedule the crews never controlled. The project wasn't just an arena either. A 29-story office tower rose alongside it as part of the same complex, sharing a foundation grid squeezed between live rail lines running the entire length of the site. Existing station columns got reinforced to carry the new arena's added weight. Wherever those columns weren't enough, crews threaded brand new ones into whatever narrow gaps existed between active tracks, working entirely around a railroad's own signal timing rather than a construction schedule. Try pouring concrete foundations 50 feet down while a live rail platform sits 20 feet to your left, still running trains on schedule, very carefully and mostly at night. Engineers coordinated major steel lifts around the railroad's own signal patterns since a beam swinging over the wrong track at the wrong moment risked a very different kind of accident. The steel itself tells you how strange this job really was. One girder section ran 155 feet long and weighed 96 tons by itself. Joined to two more sections, the combined piece stretched 282 feet and weighed 213 tons total, reportedly the largest single steel assembly used in a New York City building up to that point. Every one of those pieces had to swing into place above commuters walking to their trains without so much as a lane closure down below. In total, roughly 15,000 tons of steel went into the foundations alone, with another 14,000 tons framing the arena and roof above it. Materials arrived by truck on a tightly scheduled basis, so deliveries never backed up onto surface streets already choked with traffic. Getting the compression ring into position took a 60-ton crane paired with a 70-ton derrick, lifting each perimeter column into place one at a time, 150 feet in the air above the tracks. From the arena floor, a truck-mounted crane with a 170-foot boom and a 30-foot jib handled the roof steel itself, piece by piece, cable by cable, through the winter of 1966. Cold weather made the job worse before it made it better. Crews layered on special handling procedures for steel that turns brittle in freezing temperatures, slowing a schedule that was already tight. At its peak, more than 1,000 tradesmen worked the site across overlapping shifts, coordinating everything around a train schedule that never once paused for their convenience. The arena floor sat 45 feet above street level, resting on welded plate girders bolted together with high-strength friction bolts instead of rivets, a faster technique at the time that didn't sacrifice any strength. Underneath all of it, two full levels took shape. A 5,000-seat theater that would later be named the Felt Forum, a bowling alley with 48 lanes, an art gallery, and a small cinema seating just over 500 people. Somewhere in that stack of concrete and steel sat a full bowling alley, directly underneath one of the most famous roofs in sports architecture. By late 1967, the ring had closed, the cables were tensioned, and the building finally looked like an arena instead of a construction site wrapped around a train station. Madison Square Garden opened its doors on February 11, 1968, 3.5 years and $123 million after groundbreaking. The first event wasn't a game at all. It was a gala salute to the USO, with Bob Hope and Bing Crosby headlining a night built for celebration, rather than competition. The Knicks and Rangers played their first games in the building the very next night, February 12th, in front of crowds the arena could now hold at nearly 19,800 for basketball and just over 18,000 for hockey, close to 1,300 more seats than the old Garden ever managed even at its most crowded. Reaction to the architecture split almost immediately. Some praised the open sightlines and the sheer ambition of hanging an entire roof from cable. Others compared its low, windowless bulk unfavorably to the marble hall it had replaced just a few blocks away. Sports writers, for what it's worth, mostly just cared that every single seat could finally see the whole court or the whole rink, columns or no columns. Within its first year, the building had already hosted an NCAA basketball doubleheader, a heavyweight exhibition, and the circus. Proof that the flexibility Felt had promised wasn't just a sales pitch. Either way, the doors were open, and the crowds kept coming. Madison Square Garden is still standing on the same cable roof from 1968, more than 55 years later, making it the oldest arena currently in continuous use in both the NBA and the NHL. Two major renovations, one in 1991 and a much larger one between 2011 and 2013, rebuilt almost everything hanging inside that roof. New luxury suites went in. Two 233-foot sky bridges now hang directly from the original cables. The seating bowl itself got torn out and rebuilt more than once. The 2011 renovation alone cost more than $1 billion, roughly 8 times what it cost to build the entire arena back in 1968. The roof itself never needed replacing through any of it. Engineers even turned the mechanical equipment sitting on top into a mass damper, using its own weight to resist wind uplift and cut down on vibration, essentially making the roof do double duty as its own stabilizer. I find it darkly funny that Felt predicted this outcome almost exactly. He figured some future generation of architects would eventually want his building gone too, the same way his own generation wanted Penn Station gone. The city has floated moving the garden entirely more than once, mostly so a rebuilt Penn Station could finally exist without an arena sitting on its roof. So far, the roof has survived every version of that argument as well. MSG has carried the nickname the world's most famous arena for decades now, a boast that would sound hollow if the roof holding the whole thing up had ever needed serious structural intervention. Instead, the very structure Felt built to avoid needing columns turned out to be the reason this arena has outlasted almost every case ever made against it. Irving Felt ran the garden into the early 1970s and lived to see it become exactly what he'd promised, the busiest, most flexible arena of its era. Robert Wagner's Preservation Committee, born from watching this project tear down Penn Station, went on to protect hundreds of other buildings across the city. What the project proved was simple. A roof doesn't need columns to hold up 20,000 seats, and an arena can rise directly on top of a working railroad without shutting down a single train. The original Penn Station never came back. Its replacement, cramped and unloved for decades, is finally being redesigned, with plans to restore some of the grandeur the city tore down in 1963. If you want to see what almost never got built, look up the original Penn Station photographs from before the demolition. Subscribe if you want to see more of these videos, and tell me in the comments which arena, building, or monument I should rediscover next.